Hey everybody, it's Matt, Dyan, and welcome back to OK Aussie. It is a podcast time. We're in the studio.
Yes, I actually made an effort today.
She has.
You're welcome.
It took a bit of effort. Me, I just come as I am.
It has taken a bit of effort because putting on makeup, the last time I put on makeup, hello son, was for my son's son. Funny that's my fluffy
That's
son.
your fluffy one.
Was for my son's wedding.
That was a few years ago
That was
too.
the last time I probably put makeup on. Just to let you know, that's a long time ago. So I'm just saying.
Well, you were privileged.
You're privileged.
Indeed. In fact, that we've actually got you out of the bedroom into
isn't
the
it good?
studio is a great thing.
I like good afternoons. I'm having a good afternoon.
We appreciate good afternoons. And that's probably a good segue into the conversation that we're about to have in today's podcast.
It sometimes happens.
It's like a sometimes food, isn't
But
it?
sometimes, well, actually, most of you never see it because I use it with my family and life because I've got to live.
Indeed, you do. So today's conversation for the podcast is actually about Dyan's chromosomal disorder 22q11.2 Deletion Syndrome. We've got Willow the cat who's going to be joining us. We couldn't bring the fish and the birds in here as well, so sorry about that.
To be.
Now, most of us know that chromosomes are the building block of the human body. Okay, we've got 23 pairs of those, or 46 individual chromosomes, and they are the long strands of DNA which contains all of the body's genes. Now, for Dyan, from birth, there's a bit of a problem here.
Something broke.
Yeah, so 22q11.2 Deletion Syndrome is a chromosomal disorder, and it results in poor development, and it affects lots of different body systems.
Yeah.
And it's actually, for you, a submicroscopic deletion of the long arm of this 22nd chromosome.
So the top of my 22nd chromosome is just gone.
Now, some people have it as a duplication, they have it doubled up, or some people have it as a deletion, totally missing. That means you're missing 40 to 60 genes. And that's really important to actually keep into context because...
that's a lot, guys.
Every cell.
22q is not common, it is rare, and therefore this is not known. I know myself, if someone said to me before I was diagnosed, oh, have you ever heard 22q? No.
No, and
in fact... said, what are you talking about?
No, and we'll throw some of the other names at you that you may have heard associated to this in a moment, but the reality is most people haven't heard. But let's have a conversation. It affects anywhere between, and here's the numbers, and some of the things we'll talk about in today's podcast. Look, the research is only still developing. It is that new age, cutting edge, bleeding edge that they're having to get all this information and learn more and more, and that's really what our struggle is the fact that a lot of the doctors, a lot of the scientists are so far behind on this condition. Now, there's somewhere between anywhere 1 in 6,000 up to 1 in 9,000 people are born with this condition. Okay. Now, look, a lot also don't actually make it in vitro. They may not actually pass.
So you've got to remember with that a lot of them don't make it anywhere from in vitro to 3.
Yeah, and those first couple of years of life are
very risky.
Major risk, unfortunately.
Those children must be cared for with kit gloves,
which
was my history.
Yeah, and that's that congenital part. Born with, that's really what congenital means. What you're born with. And because it's really a midline condition, in fact, the centre of the body is not properly formed in many regards, you may know some of the symptoms. So quite commonly, the cleft lip or
I have a high palate, so my high palate caused me, my mother had extreme feeding problems with me and needed a lot of assistance with that. Probably didn't get a lot in those days and had a lot of battles. And that is tough for a mother because, as you can imagine, having a high palate, drinking from a bottle, and the bottles those days, but then again, I was breastfed, but even then I would have been bottle fed after that. So either which way, the latching, because of my high palate, I was sucking in air.
Yeah.
So the colic was so severe that I was up screaming for 6 months of my life.
That's not much fun as well.
So I must have been suffering tummy pain and all the rest of it because the high palate causes me to take the oxygen in.
Now, from talking about oxygen, let's go to the nasal passage. You've got a deviated septum. That's another midline malformation.
I went to an ear, nose and throat specialist. Throat specialist because I was getting recurrent. What do you call it?
Infections.
Of the
adenoids?
No.
I can't think of the name for the moment.
Down the back of the throat. No, like the
Oh, I don't know. It's somewhere. You got somewhere infectious.
Tonsillitis.
Oh, your tonsils. Sorry.
So I had it 4 times, so I was referred to a specialist naturally.
Right.
And we had a discussion. He discovered the deviated septum, and he explained to me that I've only got 25% of air that's going in. I can get it surgically done if I want to. It's a decision that I can make. He said that most people don't get a good effect afterwards. It just becomes more of a problem later anyway. But that's the cause of your sinus infections that you get recurrent.
Right.
So he told me to avoid dairy, etc. So
Okay, so we're going to go into a lot more of the other symptoms and things as we have a bit of a Q&A we've done through this, because we've actually been getting quite a lot of questions in the comment sections. So first of all, welcome to all of our new recent subscribers. That's one of the reasons why we're doing today's episode, to bring you guys
introduce yourself if you want
up to scratch. Yeah, and we'd love to see everybody engage in our online community through the comments and support each other. And some really good questions have been coming through. So first of all, a very big thank you there. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we'd love to see you in more of our episodes. Sometimes we do the long format podcast.
We do so much
many fun things.
And the only thing is that illness does sometimes get in the way, as you've noticed recently. It has been pretty boring around here, but don't worry. There's always moments where it gets quite fun and hectic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're coming into summer mode here in Perth, Western Australia. That's where we're located, over here in sunny Western Australia. But that has its own challenges we'll talk about in a moment as well. Dyan does like to do some online shopping with her Shein. I'm not going to mention that too loudly.
This is Shein.
Not sponsored, but hey, Shein, if you want to sponsor us, please, you know where to come to.
This is it.
She'll do things such as home decorating as well, her art. We're in the art studio, so resin art,
this is
craft.
My art studio, guys.
A lot of cool things
Welcome.
going on.
I've got a lot of cutesy things here that inspire my art. I love resin art. I'm an abstract artist.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, sometimes, some days, weeks, and even months, Dyan is bedbound. Literally does not get to get out of her bed, leave her bedroom. In fact, she's spent sometimes years stuck in bed with the chronic long-term condition. But let's get to the specifics of 22q. It's a bit of an odyssey. It's actually known as a diagnostic odyssey because it's actually really, really complex, and it leads to delays in diagnosis. Most commonly anywhere between 8 to 10 years to get a diagnosis. And that's a lot of rare diseases are in that space. And you've actually got multiple rare diseases.
Yeah,
you didn't win the lottery of life, did you, young lady? No.
I've got 3.
Go figure. I wish we could win lotto. If one Powerball would be out of here, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Hobby farm.
Dyan is 50 years of age. For you who are new to the channel, we are in a partnership. We have been together, married for 33 years.
30 years, but together for 33.
Together for 33. I've been corrected.
Men don't get it, do they? They don't calculate very well.
It's worse than 2 life sentences.
It's two life sentences we've both served. So I think we deserve a badge for that.
We do.
Thanks.
And just to pin it on. I am not only Dyan's partner, but I've also become her full-time carer over the last 8 to 10 years, I guess, really. As
he's very bossy.
Dyan's condition has got deteriorated, particularly with the neurocognitive. And we'll explain the deterioration of 22q.
There's been a lot of neurocognitive decline, and that's when, sadly, Sir had to step up really big time because it was becoming like absolutely not even an option to be home alone and not care.
Home Alone, I always remember that TV show, Home Alone. Yes, that's actually a bit like
And you know what? We used to do it Home Alone tough, and I want to praise both of us here for that.
Right.
Because we did life by choice without government assistance.
Independent
we
for 25 years.
To the point where I had a mini fridge in my bedroom that was set up for the day, so that when he was gone for 12 hours a day,
or plus or longer,
because he needed to earn a 6-figure income for us to keep afloat. Our sons, we wanted them to be able to live at home until they were ready to leave and not have this thing of, oh, you're 18, get out, can't afford you. We didn't want to have to do that. So we made sure that they had the opportunity to have education and all the rest of it. And they both had 24 years pretty much each to get, a life. And I think that's more than enough. And we got to do that opportunity and look after me, but that was me too. Like, I had to look after myself at times when it was really hard.
A lot of pacing was involved in that.
You had to work hard during the day for 12 hours and come home and look after me. And sometimes if I couldn't get, say, even just the simple things of the washing done or whatever, Then he would have to do it on an odd night here and there. So we've bagged together as a team, but it hasn't been easy.
And cooperatively, yeah.
And I just want to say that I'm just proud of what we've done because we didn't open our hands for handouts straight away.
No.
And so I know that in my past, with a lot of people I knew in the chronic illness world, you know, they'd always look at my situation and think, oh, you know, like, but I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been very sick since 17. I've just been hiding it.
Yeah, well, actually, when I met you at 17, it wasn't very long into first meeting you that you became very unwell.
I was
very
supposed
quickly.
to be in hospital,
Yeah.
and I was medicated to sleep for 2 weeks. I wasn't allowed to be awake any longer than 2 hours a day, and
because you had Epstein-Barr, which
dangerously ill.
came and really knocked you flat.
Absolutely.
You had post-viral syndrome immediately after that, and then that put you into chronic fatigue, and hence now the MECFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis.
That's where it came from. I had recurrent
over 30 years. And I've seen your fluctuations, and look, over the years, Dyan's been able to, spend the hours of the day where the kids might be at school resting and recovering. And as soon as I got home, she's back up and operating until I got home to take over. And this was that pacing that you did
I used to get up
well.
and down. I had like a pattern. So in the mornings, I would like write a list, knowing of like, okay, what energy have I got? Write the list to match the energy. Go, 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 go. Crash. Make sure there was an alarm in case I fell asleep because of the exhaustion. Race to the school, pick up the kids, because I was the kind of mum that picked up my kids longer than what I should have. I mean, we were less than a kilometre from the school. And they would go in the mornings because it was cool to go with their friends on their scooters, and that was sweet. But even the cat tried to go to school. But, you know, I kept telling her, you cannot go to school, Callie, you're a cat. But basically, I would get those things done after dealing with them in the morning, get the jobs done, rest, pick them up. Then I would get dinner half prepared, rest, because normally I'd had the discussions of how their day was, made sure the homework was done, or gone to the shop if there was anything they needed for school or whatever else. And then in between you getting home and them having their, they go into their cave, don't they? Their little caves. And so I'd rest again and then get up again
but
and cook dinner.
And I remember this many a time,
and
literally lying on the ground in the laundry in between loads, simply because
waiting for the
too much energy to actually even sit up and get up.
To go back to somewhere else in the house and come back again.
But this was the element of this whole pacing and moderating your energy as you went on. And look, together as a partnership, we had to spend so many evenings, nights, weekends in hospitals, in clinics and EDs.
And we would come home at 2, 3 in the morning, and then we're both up again having coffee at 6:30 in the morning because he's got to get on the freeway at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Off I go.
Okay, and this was years of this.
It's a very exhausting process.
To just earn a 6-figure income so
part
that
of
he could
the
help
discussion today,
raise
podcast,
the whole family.
will probably resonate with people who are either maybe parents of children going through this, who are maybe in partnerships or yourself. And look, you're probably going to see some of the elements that you yourself understand or witness and can resonate with, because there's a lot of struggles, not just as being the patient, but in a family unit trying to deal with a complex and a chronic condition, rare diseases, and having to also nurture and support that.
You're still a partner. You're still trying to be a daughter. You're still trying to be a friend. You're trying to be everything to everyone. And then on top of everything, I'm autistic.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of those things underneath the umbrella. Now, 22q11.2 Deletion Syndrome is actually an umbrella diagnosis for Dyan. It actually took her
it's the reason for everything,
8 years,
including autism,
to actually get that diagnosis, to work out suddenly why are all these separate small things happening. And it actually finally explains for Dyan that as an answer. I said it before, it's a diagnostic odyssey because it takes so long commonly to actually get that diagnosis.
Shouldn't be the case though.
These days, and it's current area for children going through, look, there's a lot more genetic
it's changing
testing.
Now.
Brilliant.
Thank goodness.
It needs
I like that,
But there is actually a lot of elder people who've actually been missed along the way who are getting later diagnosis. Not only in this condition. That's the interesting part which we don't really have the answers for.
No, you don't, because they're hiding it.
There's a lot of data that's actually missing. Now, we've had to put literally 2 and 2 together. 22.
And
to
guess
get
what
this
my
answer of
favourite,
22q.
you know what, guys? Guess what my favourite number is?
I know, right?
2. My favourite number is 2.
Yep.
Now, I've been seeing a lot of 1s lately.
Oh, okay.
So my guardian angels are just screaming at me. Look, I have been like hand on Bible lately and real focus on. I've needed it for myself.
It's your go-to solace.
It's always my go-to. I don't tend to me it's the book of life. So if I just need something, it's always in there. The answer's always in there.
So Christianity and religion has always been part of your life.
Correct. Since day one.
You had an upbringing of Catholicism
I've always
originally.
had to kneel and pray.
Yeah.
And Mum would tell me to tell God all my problems.
Yeah. Now, you're not aligned to any specific church.
And then when I was a kid, I think God must have thought, please, just go to bed. Enough.
You think he's sick and tired of listening to you?
I think so.
Okay. Now, Dyan might sometimes talk a little bit, but that's also
ADHD.
part of her ADHD. So let's talk about the umbrella condition in a moment. I just wanted to actually use that phrase, and you brought it up at the very beginning, catch-22, the phrase.
Yeah.
Now, there is a definition. You may have heard that and go, well, what does catch-22 actually mean? So if you describe the situation as being catch-22, you mean it's an impossible situation because you cannot do one thing until you do another thing. But you cannot do the second thing until you do the first thing.
So why is that attached to us?
Well, it's because of the complexity of your condition.
That's all I hear from doctors. You're complex medically. And I'm like, I don't care. You're a bloody doctor.
If I hear that one more time.
Figure it out, dude.
But I'll give you some information on this. Why is it using the catch-22?
Yeah,
so, for example, for us to go to get a gastroparesis diagnosis with your gut dysmotility,
I had hyperemesis.
I had to take Dyan first of all to a rheumatologist to get the condition of hypermobility and Ehlers-Danlos diagnosed for the second time, by the way.
At 47, I still got 9 out of 9 on the scale. I was like,
of hyperflexibility.
No, I meant to have a lower number at this age.
Sure, but look, Dyan,
and
let's explain that part in a moment. But that step by step, I had to actually get you this step achieved first for the gastroenterologist to go, oh, well, of course, if you've got you're going to have gastroparesis.
No, but he also said too, because I had hyperemesis gravidarum, it's another connected thing.
Correct.
So,
but can you see those connections? It's like, once you start laying these things out on the line.
But that's their job. But we do it for them.
And that comes back to that diagnostic odyssey part. Now, look, there's quite a few things we're going to talk about. With the umbrella diagnosis, autism is definitely a part of it. Probably ADHD. About 25 to 30% of people with 22q will have autism. ADHD, higher prevalence. It's somewhere between 40 to 60%. Okay, we'll have that.
Because my ADHD is quite full on.
Yeah. Now,
especially when I was
along the way, you've had all of these separate diagnoses. As a child, when you were born, you had obviously...
in our day, they call it hyperactivity, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
In the
different
70s,
names.
80s, but now they call it ADHD. But
correct.
Oh, yeah, it was a big problem at school.
Now,
huge
if
problem
I'm doing the impression of a mosquito coming for you right now, what are you going to do?
Freak out.
Freak out. Why are you going to freak out? Jesus, you're a bit rough on this poor mosquito. You had Skeeter syndrome.
Correct. I had Skeeter syndrome.
Anaphylaxis reaction and allergy.
So severely that one mosquito bite, say on my cheek, and it would be like this. And it was severe. And I was in and out of hospital, doctors. I used to have to, my parents would put me in the middle of the room and there was a net and they would tuck the net into the bed and they would spray me with Aerogard and I'd have to tuck my socks into, luckily we lived in a cold climate down in Denmark, tuck my socks into my pajamas. And I remember even at one point, I'm sure I had gloves that Mum would tuck over my thing and I would have Aerogard on me and they would put the net around and in the corners of the room, this is what the doctor explained to do, in the corners of the room was fly spray.
Yep.
So the smell of fly spray to me is quite traumatizing.
Oh, it would be triggering, wouldn't it?
It's very triggering. And,
but there was life and death because
so that's how they had to do it and I slept in this net. But it was nice in the sense of, I remember my dad kind of trying to make it oh, you're a princess and you know, you need to be protected. And So that was kind of nice.
It's kind of that boy in a bubble analogy, isn't it? And you're having to live in that protective bubble.
And that's how I had to live for quite a while, because there was a day where I woke up and I couldn't open my eyes.
Right.
And I'm only like 3 or something, 4 maybe.
That's
really
freaky.
tiny.
Yeah,
really
that would scare you, I'm sure.
And I sat up on my bed, and all I remember getting is a head spin.
Right.
Because my head must have been swollen, and I could not open my eyes, and I just because I'm autistic, just screamed, and Mum comes running in and Dad comes running in, and it was just like, oh, both my eyes had closed over. It's awful.
It is awful. Now, you would have had things like eczema, you would have had measles, chickenpox, and all these other things along the way, multiple allergies.
Lots of problems.
A lot of complexities. And look, for your family, it's obviously became incredibly hard, very difficult for them to be able to manage, coming back to complex. In fact, now when we look back, reflectively, you had selective mutism, which again is an autistic trait.
I got into things I shouldn't, I mean, I was one of those kids on the farm that I literally remember there was a point where I climbed up a water tank that we had, and we had like a little tap and some cups there, and Nana said, we could just drink the rainwater when we were outside playing. But I climbed the ladder because I was just there alone, and I was bored, obviously. Climbed the ladder, moved the thing off the top of the big tank, the lid, looked down. I love water, and I considered going in for a swim. Imagine if I did.
Absolutely. Look, there's been a lot of farm tragedies with dams and water tanks and things.
And I remember then leaving it open and climbing down, because that's how I got into trouble.
Right. But even as a child, you fell into the pool at one of your other grandparents' house at what, 2 or 3 years of age?
They had a massive pool. So my father's parents had like an Olympic-sized swimming pool, huge swimming pool, and I was about 2, and they said that I came to the back door from head to toe soaking wet, and the wet patch.
Right.
Was in the deep end. Because when you walk down the stairs, because I remember swimming in that pool for years and years and years and years, and when you walk down the stairs from where the al fresco is and the pool's down there, where you walk down, the deep end's the first part you get to. So
well, it's lucky that you learned to swim at a young age.
Correct. Like the lady that lived next door to us when I was born said to my mum, she was a swimming instructor, and she said, you've got to get your children into swimming. It's Australia, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, definitely. We're full of beaches, obviously.
Yes, you have to learn to swim in Australia. It's if you come here, don't wait for school to teach your kids. We took our kids to swimming lessons. You don't wait for school.
Super important
you do
to
it
be good at swimming.
Straight away.
And safety is very important as
so
well.
I've been swimming since I was 6 weeks old.
Yes, and apparently you had some close quarters with that. Now, I was saying before, your family found it very difficult with the complexities of so many health conditions, and the autism, and the ADHD, the selective mutism, the immune system going up, the lack of sleep because you were an insomniac, you never slept, all these developmental delays. And look now, honey, back
and very tiny, like
failure to thrive. Okay.
Yeah, I was very small, guys. So
which is the 22q component.
Peers,
we expect that.
Yeah.
In fact, that was one of the things that actually led me towards diagnosis. Was when I got a tape measure out and started measuring your skull and going, let's have a look at what the head size is meant to be, and realizing that you were less than 1%
I'm in the 1%
of the adult population as standard deviations go. And it's like, okay, well, look, there's some other of the facial features and the eyes and the lips and the ears.
I can't see
the palate, I was looking around. And even when your geneticist did the same thing, it's like, oh yeah, I've done that. I've done that too. And it's like, we came to some conclusions. We put that 2 and 2 together, but there's a few steps before that, which we're going to talk about. So we've talked about autism, we've got ADHD, your OCD, very organised.
Yeah, so I'm OCD, and I always have been, and it's a really difficult one because it can be, in my life, it's presented to others as you're a princess, right? Now, the problem with my OCD and how I was raised is I was raised in privilege. And so I don't handle dirty, grimy environments. I don't handle mess and yuckiness. I don't handle it. It's something that sets off my OCD.
Right.
I cannot cope with that because I'm not used to it. Number
It's interesting
one.
that you say that because you've come
And
from
so
two
I
components.
will clean.
Yeah.
Like I've had rentals our whole life, haven't I?
Yep.
That I have cleaned with a toothbrush from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And the people
clean.
that I've handed the house back to have said, this is better condition than what we gave it to you in. And I'm like, yeah, because like I would take down the blinds, you know, those blinds that you have.
Like
I would take them all down and scrub them from head to toe outside and put them back up when they're dry. Because I could not live if it was that gross. And so it can be very exhausting. And I would do this, guys, with 2 small children that I've just put to bed, and I was an active mum involved with them. Then I'd be doing my university homework, and then I'd be cleaning blinds. I mean, I was just
crazy.
OCD is actually very exhausting.
Debilitating. It is exhausting. But that's
and
interesting.
as I've gotten older, I'm in more control.
It's partly powered by the ADHD, which gives you that get up and go. But then you've got
focus.
an opposition to that, which is your fatiguing condition.
Correct. So I've
naturally
had to
22q
surrender.
comes with this fatiguing condition, and
Can't
then having
do
things like post-viral syndrome into MECFS, which is that myalgic encephalitis, chronic fatigue. How do you do this where you're trying to conserve the battery, trying to do things, but then your brain wants to, I want to go and do these things, the energy, just like, let me at it. Now, I'm just going to come back a couple of steps, and I'm going to try to help guide this conversation, so bear with us as we do this. But you talked about in your childhood that you came from privilege, but that was on one hand. You had millionaires on one side, and you had the absolute poverty on the other side.
Well,
what conflict?
I had, it's difficult to explain because, yes, on one side, I had a very successful grandfather that I believe was autistic. He was an accountant. He had very successful business. And it gave them a very privileged life. My father went to a very well-known school in Perth, a very, posh school, and they basically had everything, okay? And they lived the high life because he succeeded and he got to retire very young because of that. So they had wonderful morals and values with it though. That's what I so respected. And then on the other side, my grandparents were very stable financially. However, that was like they had to be tight and they had to be very controlled with their money, even though they had a lot and they were stable, because he was a mechanical engineer, also autistic, by the way. Both my grandfathers is where I believe I got it from. And but because he had a triple heart bypass around 50, he had to retire early, medically. So naturally you have to tighten up the funds.
Absolutely.
So he would support my mum, who was a single mum, and because my father, even though he comes from wealth, his father had to pay the maintenance because he wouldn't. And in those days it wasn't forced. A father could turn up in Australia and say, I just don't have the money. And that was enough. And they didn't have to pay. And so my mother naturally would struggle, and I would even help her clean houses.
At a young
from
age of
9, 10. And that's what she had to do to supplement. But she did have support from her parents.
Sure.
And they were tight because they had 5 children, and my grandfather was sick.
Yeah, but you're living a lifestyle at one stage in the country as a hippie, and then having to transfer into the city. So you've got this balance between city and country lifestyle.
I was, when I was younger, I had everything I ever wanted, could wish for, I guess, as a child, the perfect childhood. I had 2 parents and...
So that's in the first few years.
So much just normality and just
fun
things that we did. And then, we built a house, I think we were one of the first brick houses in Denmark, and it was so much fun to build because we had really good friends that he was a builder, German dude, and he was, the Germans are hard workers. And anyway, we built this beautiful house and we had this beautiful, amazing life. And next minute, my mum was like, we're going to the city for a holiday. And I was like, but where's Dad? Why is Dad not coming? And because I was very much Daddy's girl up until that point. And I was like, well, why is Dad staying behind? Like, that's just weird. This is the 70s. That doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so we went to Perth and we never came back.
Right.
not for a long time.
So that stepped you into a pathway, unfortunately, of your mum
That's
going
the
through
divorce,
multi-relationships, multi-divorces along the way.
Yes.
So much instability, and for an autistic who needs regularity,
It was
routine.
traumatic, yeah.
Wow, what stress that would have been. And then the complexities of chronic health and
Well,
dealing with all these things.
my fear and anxiety, which is a really big deal with 22q children.
22q, fear and anxiety.
Fear and anxiety is
Very
a big
relevant,
deal.
yeah.
I still can't sleep in the dark. Don't really care what people think of that, but I can't. And particularly as a child, I could not sleep in the dark. And so I had a lot of phobias, a lot of fears, and that also comes with autism.
Yep.
And I would sleep with the light on, literally the actual top light on. And it did actually rock me, that divorce, because it got to the point where both my parents didn't handle post-divorce, that I mean, my dad was supposed to pick me up many times, and I'd be sitting at the letterbox for 2 hours.
Now, Don's got a few more of these.
I was told he's coming, but he didn't come.
Now, there's a bit more background about those sort of stories in other videos, and I do encourage you to go back and have a look at those. But I want to set the scene because it creates this juxtaposition of understanding of how complex that you, as a child with a chronic, complex condition, going through instability, not having stable parents and family around, even a stable location or having to move all the time, none of that helps in these sort of complex
Changing
situations.
schools a lot was hard.
No, absolutely. So,
I mean, I was always in the same area, which kind of helped, guys, because I know when I went to my high school, I knew everybody. There was 3 schools that went to that school.
They merged together for the high school feeding.
And I went to all of those schools. So I knew everybody.
Well, you got to sample all the different schools then, didn't you?
I knew everybody. So I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
So I had more friends.
Yeah, that worked out well. Now, talking about school, and it's probably an important thing in conjunction with 22q11.2 Deletion Syndrome, global developmental delays, that's the physical side of things, failing to thrive and build and develop. Intellectual developmental delays are part of the condition as well.
Yeah.
Educational developmental issues.
I even had pica, like weird sort of.
So that's where you eat things that are not appropriate to eat. Concrete, sand, foam.
I ate foam and little pieces of concrete.
Yeah. So these are a lot of autistic traits, and autism by itself is actually quite a challenge, being neurodiverse.
Yeah, I had a lot of meltdowns as a child. A lot.
Yep.
And I don't put that down to just being me. My home life was not conducive for an autistic at all. I was not supported. My mum just didn't seem to be like a mum anymore when the divorce happened. I think it broke her, to be honest. And as an adult now, I can see this difference. So don't pity me. But I'm just going to say, I look back at my mother and just see a woman that's just shattered and broken, that her dream didn't happen. And that's all I can see now that I look back as an adult.
Yeah, and
it broke her.
It's a good reflection when you're able to do that with adult lens looking into that situation.
Because my dad moved on very quickly. I mean, my stepmother was in my face literally a year later. And that's not good, guys. I'll let you know that. Just don't shove these step parents in your children's faces quickly or much. Just don't. It's just, you've got to respect parents are the parents. End of story, whether they're living there or not. It's very important for that child to experience it in that way.
So these little anecdotes are very important, again, to set the scene, to understand that Dyan is struggling in the school environment, already got global developmental delays, intellectual developmental delays, lower IQ, special education all the way through.
That did help.
Dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. So you're struggling with those components. You're selective mute until about 9, 10 years of age.
About 11
years of age, or 12
It depended on the people who I could speak to and who I couldn't. But before 11, 12, there was many teachers that never heard my voice.
Right, and that affects your learning, your ability to be able to participate.
It does. Yeah, totally.
And in consequence to that, when you do finish, and you unfortunately didn't get to do year 12, you had to leave at year 11 because you didn't have the support of your family to do that. So you're removed from education. You didn't want to.
No, I didn't want to.
But you leaving year 11 really with only a primary school capability of reading, writing, mathematics.
So before I went to TAFE, I had a step auntie who was a TE English teacher. Very high English teacher. So she could teach very well. And she offered to tutor me, and I said, hey, go for it. Like, any help I can get, I'm in. I would love to just kind of get that confidence by being tutored first. So we did it, and she tested me. Obviously, I didn't know that she was doing that,
So
but she obviously
yeah.
pre-tested me in maths and English and just some basic stuff. I can't remember, but there was a basic thing. And she said to me, look, don't be sort of upset by it, because I can get you further than this, but your education level is year 7. I was, how old was I then? 22.
Right.
22.
Right. So really you're at the education level of someone who's about 11 or 12 years of age,
At
and then
22.
you're 22.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go on with that one-on-one and working,
I did,
and this is the thing
yeah,
about
I
working
worked hard.
at a way that works with you, like an education delivery that clicks with you, and you worked hard, your independence of working and putting that energy behind it.
And it was really
to do
beautiful.
study, to do TAFE, to go into university and then study university,
Psychology.
and not only study it but succeed at some of the most highest and most complicated issues and problems.
But you know
inside
what, that
Brilliant
tutor,
work.
my step auntie, my auntie Ruth, she, I'm gonna cry actually.
Okay. Emotions are very normal and a part of this as you reflect and think about
She
this.
told me later that she goes, you need to know. She was very much just a matter of fact kind of person, and I really liked that, being an autistic. And she said, you know, every year when I start with my students, I tell them your story, and I say there's no excuse, because I had 2 small children and I did what I did, right?
Yeah.
With having 2 literally under 5s, 2 kids 2 years apart, and she would say to her students, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
No excuse. And she said she would tell my story.
She was very proud of you. She was proud of your efforts.
And
you're a great case study.
That really,
devotion.
In the moment,
effort.
I thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Being autistic. And as the years went on, I was like, oh, it's you know, it's a compliment.
Yeah.
You know, it's saying, wow, look what you did.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
To put some things into context, and particularly in high school, a lot of amendments were made for you in the high school environment. Luckily, look, a lot of primary school time was spent maybe outside of the classroom on the bench because you weren't able to focus or concentrate or getting into trouble. You were taken out to special education all through your primary school.
I would challenge the teachers, because this is the difficult bit. There's autism, and there's also, I grew up in a alternative town that was. We were taught in Denmark District High School, we were taught to challenge everything, right? So when we were doing science, it was like, well, why does that work? Show me how that works, because I can tell you this science experiment works, but you've got to see it for yourself, and you've got to make it happen, you know, for yourself. And so there was always this thing of no question is bad, just ask anything. It was very different, guys. I can't even, and we could call some of them by first names. It was so different. You didn't have to ask to go to the toilet.
It's very Montessori sort of based, Steiner school based.
And so when we came to the city, and I'm being...
That's rain, sweetie.
And I'm being told off for just going to the toilet, or I don't know, fidgeting or whatever, which wasn't picked on in Denmark. It was just weird.
But it was interesting when in high school you're then challenging teachers who go, you just simply don't know the information. Why can't you teach me this? What's wrong with you? I had an argument
with the geography teacher. I mean, her personality sucked, so she kind of deserved it because she had an attitude. She wasn't a nice teacher, but I was asking some questions about what we were learning, and she was like, well, it's all in the book. And I said, yeah, but I want to know a little bit more than what it says in the book about this bit. And because she couldn't answer it, I was like, well, you shouldn't be a geography teacher.
Yeah, you've always got this hunger, this
and
curiosity
it
for
was
education.
an honest thing. I wasn't saying it to be rude
Not
or
being bratty.
smart-ass
No,
or
you just
bratty.
wanted to know.
I was like, why are you the geography teacher if you don't know this? Stupid, I know, but I was immature, I was young, and I just thought that this person who studied geography knows everything.
Now, look, social inappropriateness, communication, understanding, that's a autistic sort of trait.
So she said, you know, take a walk, come back.
That walking off is an ADHD thing, which you use a lot as a management technique to be able to de-stress.
And it was so funny because I was a foundation student of my high school.
The brand new school.
We started this brand new school. School's closed now, but anyway, like, so basically, And it was wonderful. It was a performing arts school, so it was really cool for me. But basically, I'd walk around the school, and because I knew every teacher, and our teachers and I, or all of us, were very bonded, because when we started, it was only just us. And so there was a lot of bonding, and we got a lot of attention from the local shire and the local newspapers and things like that, because it's a new school. So we always got invited to special things, and that was pretty cool. So it was always like the teachers would see me and they would kind of banter with me because they knew that it was like, oh, what'd you do? And I'd be like, this happened. And then they'd talk me through it, like almost like a social story, guys. Like before these things were given a name, ABA, social stories, they've always happened, guys. They just weren't called that.
No. So a lot of these autistic traits were part of your education.
Yes.
So, for example, being separated and having to sit on the bench, having to use the ability to go for walks around the oval to burn off that energy, being easily distracted by flashing lights, or having the fish tank too close.
No, I was never near the window.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Far too distracted.
Every time I was allocated a seat, I was like, of course.
Of course, the stimming activities, which is very autistic traits orientated, or chewing your pen and doing those sort of things.
Badly, guys.
You're also, because you're so small, you're having to swing on your chair because the chairs never fit your size, and you're always the smallest person in the photograph. This is that failure to thrive.
I was always on the end, like this.
Yeah. But medically, that's very important information to understand all of this in context as well. Because look, short stature means your torso is shrunk in, and all those organs are fighting for space.
Yeah, that's what my first gastroenterologist said. Is that also for some reason I've got probably because I've been an athlete since 3. But my stomach muscles apparently, and this is what was told to me even in my childbirth, I've got very strong stomach muscles for whatever reason. That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
And it seems to have a good muscle memory because it's always in action. But the problem is with that, when you've got the short torso and the stomach muscles are tight, it doesn't help the bowel. It doesn't help you at all. But with childbirth, it's wonderful because I can deliver a baby very quickly.
You brought childbirth up. Now, you've had 2 children naturally through cervical delivery.
All natural.
Now, with that, you had HG, which is where your body is basically saying, hey, there's a foreign body and I need to get rid of it.
It's like seasickness for months.
It's really in conflict, and unfortunately, the doctor said after the first one you shouldn't have another. After the second one,
was mad.
You are not having another one because it's going to kill you.
Oh,
so
he was mad.
You're not doing that, and we were limited. So that's why we stopped at the 2 children. But we learned a lot more about your body because of that. It was funny. All the nurses after the first birth all raced in to see Dyan immediately after giving birth. So she can still put on size 8 jeans immediately after having birth. It's
I was very annoyed.
This girl was so small. Yeah, I know you wouldn't.
I was very offended because I was like, I'm not a circus animal.
You've had that a bit along the way though, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hypermobility also adds to that. Now, your grandmother was also very flexible. Your mother's flexible. Hypermobility.
I think it goes
acrobats,
to
distortion.
My grandmother did contortion.
Hence why when you went to dancing at 3 years of age and sit on the splits a minute, it's natural.
I know, and they were like, she's got to come back.
Yeah. So dance was your career, it was your pastime, it was your passion. It was only after having obviously glandular fever, the post-viral syndrome, and really crashing that you had to stop.
But
you wanted to be a dance
lucky,
teacher,
though.
performer. You were going to go to the Moulin Rouge and everything else. It stopped your career path.
But just before that, at least I had my last concert.
Yeah.
You know, when you, if you're a dancer, you're going from sort of like, once you're not a child anymore, you're kind of out of it. Now, I was a student teacher, luckily, and that was a blessing, really. But luckily, I still got my senior year. I got Senior of the Year, I got Most Improved, and I got the Perpetual Trophy. So at least I had that one final year that I can hold on to.
Absolutely.
And I did many numbers in that I'm so proud of.
Very much so.
But unfortunately, my career stopped very soon, and I was not happy about it. I wanted to be dancing on cruise ships. I had many ideas.
Yeah. I'm going to let you have a break and catch a drink. I'm just going to come back around again. Now, at the very beginning, we talked about that 22q11.2 Deletion Syndrome. It's got other sort of names. Now, DiGeorge syndrome is one of the most common names associated to the condition, but we actually, in this current era, have actually gone away from using names like DiGeorge. Other names include things like Catch-22 I mentioned, conotruncal anomaly face syndrome, cardiofacial syndrome, DGS, microdeletion 22q, mysonomy, Spritzen syndrome. velocardiofacial syndrome, all these different names existed because they're all at the time seen as individual conditions. And it's only been genes and genetic study where they go, well, hold on,
well, it's
you guys are all missing the
99%,
same chromosomal part
Yeah.
that's missing. And it's like, no, we have to actually blend it together.
Yes.
And the problem with this is a bit like autism. You've met one person with autism, you've met one person.
Yeah.
That means it's a spectrum.
Everyone's
now, a person with
different.
autism could be high functioning, no issues, fully able to do life. Or they could be on the other end of the spectrum, like a level 4.
Yes.
And they could be in absolute need of support in every function of their daily living. And it's a bit like 22q. There's 185 separate symptoms, conditions, body parts that are affected by this thing.
Yeah.
And you've actually got quite a lot of those, sadly, as we see from some of the things that we're going to talk about coming up. Because, you know, we saw you get diagnosed with so many separate things. And I was getting frustrated. I really was. Because to be honest, I was seeing this diagnosis and that diagnosis, and then
then no result, no treatment,
and then
no relief.
this doctor was going, no, that can't be it. It must be this. And this doctor over here was going, no, it can't be this. It must be this. And then
they really aren't that
you had
smart.
cytomegalovirus. Then you had tick-borne illness as well with Lyme disease, listeriosis as well, because you're susceptible
with my
to viral loads of things picking up and staying in your system.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God, how many things
So I
can
have
this poor thing?
Neurolyme,
exactly. It's like, wow, we were getting really, really frustrated by all of this. But that's part of this complexity of what was happening.
The immune system dysfunction.
Now, neurologically, things started to go a bit wacky, a bit more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 15
Yeah,
or more.
you started off with not being able to walk properly at one stage.
Yes.
It was almost like your knees were just buckling underneath you and collapsing, and it's like there's no strength, and you're just gone from being someone who could be.
And even my hips felt, you know, off like that, you know, like
off kilter.
distorted. So my gait was
just gone.
Terrible.
Then there was
terrible.
daily migraines. The migraines, you've never been a migraine sufferer.
Weeks.
Just daily migraine after migraine after migraine.
Weeks and weeks. It
the
was
pain was intense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had our first seizure.
Yeah.
And
I wet myself, and I had a car accident with my children in it.
Your car, you had the seizure in the car, rolled down our driveway, across traffic, into the house across the road. Our kids are in it. They took minutes to try and get help with the surrounding neighbours to try and work out what got out.
For a while.
And it's like, that was a long time ago. And then the seizures became
They were so young.
more frequent, more regular.
Yeah.
And you had just started up.
But they kept saying, you know, oh, people have once-offs.
Oh,
people just have once-offs.
So
just be careful.
we're going to talk about some of these things very important because there's a lot of mistruths and anomalies in this situation. But you were at that time just starting up, and I'm so proud of you because you've studied welfare, you've studied psychology, you had created your own not-for-profit organisation in the community to help other women to get them started and motivated, to build friendships, to be able to come out of the home, to get employment. You were bringing community together.
Be happy, you know, like
but
I was doing
every
laughter
time,
yoga, we were doing
each day you were coming home from that and having the seizure.
You know, women
and that dream
empower them.
had to stop. It had to be put on pause. And in fact, it had to be terminated and wound down because you couldn't continue because your health was so deteriorated by doing that.
And it sucked
and it was out of
a
risk
lot
again.
because I had like the newspaper coming to me wanting to interview all the time about how we're going, and it was going perfectly. And then I got offered a job from the Shire to educate others on how to do a non-profit because they of course encourage that. So always know that if there's a need out there, you know, there's men's sheds, there's places for women to gather. But I'm just saying, like, I was offered a job to do that, which is something I would have wanted to do.
They identified and recognised your strengths, your capabilities of doing that, and they were trying to tap into it. So it was really disappointing. A bit like Dan's career, having to put that on hold and not be able to continue that.
Yeah.
And suddenly now this, a community organisation that you had built as a business yourself with all things done, and you had to put that on hold. Now, seizures, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this, okay, because it's so confusing. There's a lot of neurocognitive issues as part of 22q. Now, in fact, genetic epilepsy is one of the terms that comes up. It has about a prevalence of about 8.3% association in 22q patients, but that's only one part of this. 15% of people with 22q can have total unprovoked seizures. There is around about 60% of all 22q patients that can have seizure or seizure-like activity. Full stop. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
I bet.
the confusion with this is clinically the doctors miss a lot of this. They miss the treatment of what's causing it.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of the more typical tests don't work with the genetic epilepsy, mainly because of the neural. Yeah, exactly. There's aberrant synaptic plasticity. There's an imbalance in the neural excitation inhibition, which means you can't pick this up in some of the regular testing. Now, you went through.
There's an example, guys, too. Like, if you must go and watch Robin Williams' wife, who is on YouTube, did a video, and she explained
the comedian Robin Williams
that they misdiagnosed him with Parkinson's. He really had Lewy body dementia. And let me tell you this, he suffered depression, and they gaslit the shit out of him. And his poor wife found out at the autopsy that he had the worst in the world Lewy body dementia once they did the autopsy. And she felt so much guilt because she read how much he must have been suffering and how much the medical system was just like, you've just got Parkinson's. You'll be okay, but you'll just have these things. It's terrible, guys. Like, just understand, doctors are not God. They don't know everything. They do get it wrong.
It's interesting that you mention Parkinson, because Parkinson's disorder or Parkinsonism, Parkinson-like conditions are part of the evolution of 22q. We had a question recently, is Dyan expected to live? And I'll address some of these sort of questions. There is like I said, some will not through in vitro make birth. Some in the first 2 years of life will suffer significantly and not make full term. If they get past that, then there is a good likelihood that they'll get into their 40s and maybe their 50s if they've got a good medical team and awareness of the condition. Well, Dyan had late diagnosis at 48 and a half, 49 years of age before
it was April,
this condition.
And I was 48, so I was pretty much 49, so I was born in May.
So that makes it harder. Now, no congenital heart disorders are part of this condition. We understand that. But even with that, you don't have to, with 22q, have a congenital heart disorder to then have arrhythmias, sudden heart attacks, or other heart issues that can lead to just some unexplained death. In fact, if you do have the congenital component, 41.5 years of age is expected life expectancy of those patients. If you don't, it could be 49 years of age that you can reach. So Dyan's just turned 50. So we have now exceeded expectations. We're doing very, very well in that sort of regards. But every day is done with incredible caution and awareness and care and monitoring. That's why we have things such as the multiple seizure detection devices and heart rate devices. So in case Dyan in the middle of the night passes, stops breathing. So I've got alerts that can tell me if she's having a seizure. I've got alerts that can tell me. We have devices I can see that her oxygen stats drop into the low 70s with decreased saturated oxygen. I can see her heart rate bounces from the low as 34 up to 200 beats. Massive thing. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS. This orthostatic intolerance is part of this condition. It's so full on.
Since my heart event has not been the same.
It hasn't, and these are the things that we're risking. Now, throw in recently, you've also then had an allergic reaction, an anaphylaxis to a food group, which is something which you hadn't had before for this particular food group. But that becomes life-threatening because it can suddenly change with things such as mast cell activation syndrome, tryptase levels that just can fluctuate, cytokine storms, because your whole body immune system responds. We have to be so super vigilant, and I'm sorry for that, because it doesn't make it much fun when you've got to have someone always keeping an eye on you,
I know, you
supervising
feel like a permanent
you.
patient. That's why I dress up my room to be
non-medicalised.
So I know that there's probably a lot of people out there that, if they do channels like mine, they're just probably being a lot more, I guess, like less masking than me. But I mask very well.
As an autistic,
autism taught me that.
She masks. That's how
and I do that with my physical health. And also, I'm a mother. So I've always done that for my children. I always will do that for my children. Because that's what mothers do.
You also have an exceptionally high pain threshold. I mean, I do as well. It's an autistic trait myself. But
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, I remember you having a full anterior dislocation of your arm, which is hanging out there,
It
down
was
there.
down here.
And the ambos are just going,
Down
why is she
here.
not screaming in pain?
He goes, big
Because-
burly man is screaming at this. Why are
Absolutely.
you not screaming?
Yeah,
I was like,
don't know. Now, talking about the
what
seizures,
are you talking about?
I also get concerned around fevers because you always have a lot of fevers. Febrile
Yeah.
seizures is another part of the seizure methodology. About 24% of those with 22q can have febrile seizures. So there's a lot of causations around
I
that.
like to be warm.
Oh, she does.
I'm a
Now, the different
reptile.
seizures that you get absent
I'm
seizures.
a reptile.
How would you explain what an absent seizure is?
I think absent seizures for me, the only thing I'm suspicious of when it's going on is when a day goes really, really stupidly fast.
Right.
And I look at the clock and I go, no way. No way. No way.
Where did time go?
Like, where'd the day go?
Are we in the Matrix?
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, someone just stole my time.
Yeah.
Someone just turned the clock 4 hours forward.
Now, for me,
I lost 4 hours.
we could be watching TV together and we've just seen something and Diane goes, what just happened just then? Or I might say, oh, but they were celebrating a birthday. And
no,
she goes,
like I'll say,
what?
why
My
didn't
birthday?
they say this? Or why didn't this happen? And you'll go, no, it did.
But it just did.
And I'm like, oh, God.
So absent seizures are brief
Creepy.
gaps of about 8 to 10 seconds where the brain's just basically doing a reboot and she's offline. She could be staring straight ahead. You wouldn't see an other
Well, you thought I was being rude to you one day.
I thought she was ignoring me,
We were
of all
having
things.
a conversation in the car.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very well, naturally, because we had to do a long trip and we were on the long trip home. And we were chatting, and there must have been a gap of time.
Yep.
And you said, like, why are you not talking to me?
So,
and I'm like, what?
yeah, Diane can go in
I
and out
am.
of these seizures quite a lot. We can also sometimes see in the seizures syncope, which is fainting. And you used to be a
Yeah.
fainter even as a child, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, from as young as like, when was I in the choir for that? The Technicolor coat.
Probably what, 4 or 5 years?
No, like year 5.
That's like grade 4 or 5, sorry. So about 10 or 12 years, 10 or 11 years of
about
age.
10, yeah. I think I was 9 at the time. I wasn't 10 yet. And yeah.
Yep, passing out, syncope. You can have focal.
It was awful, like as a child, as you know, and especially because I didn't, in the choir, and I'm tiny, right? So everybody's up here, and nobody could see me falling. And I'm just like this. And all my friends
I love that
around
impression.
me, yeah,
Very
are
good.
like trying to hold me up, and I'm like, let me go. Oh, lay down. Because I was feeling awful, right? But basically, the teachers couldn't see me fall.
No.
Pass out.
So syncope is
And then at
passing out
Australia
is
Zoo,
very, very
I
common.
passed out, but it was rather convenient because guess what I got to see?
Oh, you got to see the
Steve
whole
Irwin's
Steve
boardroom.
Irwin's office, didn't you?
And all his awards.
Yes. You were most impressed at that.
I was so impressed at
It's funny
that.
how many autistics go to Australia Zoo
Oh, I
and
had a
zoos in
ball.
general and love animals.
I used to talk to all the people that were feeding and looking after the animal things.
We used to talk to animals all the time, Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, my family in the days when it wasn't so socially appropriate, they were a little bit worried.
Yeah.
They thought, oh no.
So we've talked about
Crazy.
absent seizures. Myclonus seizures are where you have things like restless legs or there's little tics
Yeah.
or little weird movements like that of the legs or the arms. You do have tics and a tic disorder because
I've
you
always
have,
clapped
you've
ever
always
since I
done
was a kid.
and that's Tourette's. So you've got vocal
Autism
and
is it?
physical
Autism
Tourette's.
stim,
Could be a stim, absolutely. But with the Tourette side of
Yeah,
things,
Tourette's I had as a kid.
Tourette's is
To
a
get me
combination
into
of
trouble.
motor tics as well as vocal tics
Coprolalia.
together.
Not
Now,
good.
Coprolalia is inappropriate swearing and saying
And that's
things
what I
that you
did as a
shouldn't
kid
say.
a lot. And
You
I tell
do
you,
capraxia where you sometimes flip the verb and
yeah,
and
like
things like
I
that.
was in a family that's like my grandfather was
Yeah,
Protestant,
things that you
okay, my
don't
grandmother was Catholic, like
Mhm.
everything's Catholic.
Yeah,
And here I am, this kid, and I'm raised in this high ethical family, and you had to be
Yeah.
like, you're a lady, cross your legs, and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and do this and do that, and you got to eat in a certain way, and blah 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 blah. And here I am, right, this rebel,
yep,
and I'm the girl. My brother's the goody two shoes boy. Now I was a goody two shoes as well, but the coprolalia though, when it would come up, right? Say if I got like, I used to find it happened if I got overexcited. So I had a lot of uncles that would overexcite us because we were their practice children.
yeah,
Because my mum's the oldest of her four siblings who are boys, and like, so we were always the practice kids. We
Yeah,
were always
they like to
like
muck
the ones
around.
that they'd muck around with and teach us how to do things, and especially like the younger uncle taught us how to slingshot, on the farm. But basically, my coprolalia, if I got overexcited, I would start doing all this naughty stuff. And this family's like, we don't do that. Like, that's a sin. Like, this is, no, devil.
But even as
So
an
it's
adult,
really
it must be very
hard.
embarrassing for you to be able to keep that contained. Now, we don't take Dyan out and
People
about
get shocked.
when she is in
People used
episodes of that.
Yeah, like when it did happen in my adult life, when I wasn't even aware I had this, I'd have like other friends of mine, whether it was at work or a social group thing or whatever, and they'd hear me swear and they'd go, you don't swear. You don't speak like that.
It's so out of profile, out of character.
That
for
is
you.
so not you. What's going on? And they're kind of impressed though, because most people around me were swearing. And they were quite impressed because I'm like, finally, this goody two shoes is swearing.
She can swear like a trucker, and she can.
And I can sometimes.
And you've got to understand too that, and look, apologies out there for those people who do get offended by any of those actions, but the reality is this is out of
because I'm a
Dyan's
Christian
control.
too, and I don't.
Her brain is so offline and misfiring,
It's
both
neurological.
electrically and all this. And you've got a neurodegenerative disorder, which is what 22q is. Neurologically, things are just firing all over the place. You also have other types of seizures, such as focal aware seizures, where you're basically frozen.
They're the worst.
You can hear things, but you just can't engage and do stuff. And then you have the dreaded tonic-clonic seizures. I actually dread those because
those I'm not as aware.
Yeah.
But I'm there, but I'm not. But I'm there, but I'm not.
Yeah. When we have
Bit
rolling
easy for me,
seizures, where we're
hard
going
for
in and
him.
out of tonic-clonic seizures, we have multiple of them.
I
That's
don't like the
status
noisier.
epilepticus, and it's horrible because you have a whole range of pre-ictal things such as the
noisier.
nausea, intense
So
migraines.
before I was put on medication for seizures, I used to throw up. And in a way, I sort of think that's better than feeling so sick for longer. But at the same time, when I look back, and if you look back at my compilation video of all of my years of struggles with neurology, I was so skinny, sickly skinny, grossly skinny.
Yeah, in her 40s.
And and so I guess it's good that I don't throw up because.
And we'll talk about the GI stuff in a moment.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm just sticking to the neurology, but the tonic-clonics for me are the most dangerous. This is the part where Dyan's heart rate can accelerate off the charts. Her breathing can be affected, particularly with asphyxiation. She can roll onto her face and stop breathing. You know, you've got the dystonia that comes with it as well, where her face is doing weird muscular movements from the eyes, blepharism, bruxism, or the teeth are grinding, which really hurts your teeth, doesn't it? Your jaw dislocates with the
I end up with like bruised
transmandibular joints.
teeth,
Yep.
if that makes sense. So underneath the teeth, it's bruised because I've clenched
Yeah.
down. It's horrible.
Sometimes you'll bite your tongue and cheek. Now, be mindful. We've had doctors in the past go, well, look, it's not a seizure unless you have these actions. Unless you've bitten your tongue, it's not a seizure. Bullshit. Sorry. You won't do that in each and every seizure.
But it's funny because my second seizure that I went for ambulance, and the nurse, as she was helping from the ambos, wheel me in on the thingy,
Gurney,
she said, open your mouth, and she goes, yep, it's a seizure, because I'd bitten across my tongue. She goes, and I heard her explaining it to the doctor, like how I'd bitten diagonally across my tongue.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't always happen.
Correct. And it's the same thing also with wetting yourself or urinating in the
That
seizure.
was my first seizure. Doesn't always happen though.
39% of patients, that means 61% don't urinate or wet themselves during a seizure. So you cannot have these as absolutes. Okay, 100%. If you haven't got this, you haven't got this, it's not a seizure.
But these doctors, like, they're good for what they do.
Yeah, but they're not experts.
They're not experts.
Specialists in that field.
And unfortunately in Australia, it's disgusting, to be honest, government.
Yeah.
You put your most junior doctors in the most important area, which is emergency department.
Absolutely. It's even like heart attacks with females. It's so underrepresented in the Australian community. Things like troponin level, which is commonly measured to see if you've had a heart attack. In females, and particularly females with 22q, those levels will be under elevated, which means there won't be actually appearing as a heart attack, which is what your normal measurement for a male presenting with a heart attack will be. It's like, this is the thing to understand 22q and what it affects with the condition. So there's a lot of those sort of things to be mindful and be aware of. So we've been dealing with seizures for well over 12, 13 plus years. Now you would have had 600, 700 plus tonic-clonic seizures. Myoclonus is almost all the time, and absent seizures, are you ever with me? It happens all the time. You know what I mean? These are the things.
I don't notice them.
They do change. They change with medications. Dyan does respond to ASMs, anti-seizure medications, really well. but we can't
But
get the
if
right level, can
if I have the dose that my doctor wants me, sorry, my neck is bruised.
we? I'm seeing you wind down, you exhaust yourself.
Yeah,
Therapeutic level can't be reached.
But yeah, if I reach my therapeutic level, which I need to, my mood changes.
Yep.
Because it's a drug.
Yep.
Okay, like any drugs. Just
It
because
affects
it's on
other
a
parts.
prescription paperwork from a doctor does not mean it's on a drug in
Yep.
your system, making you altered state. And I don't like the altered state because what it gives me, depression and suicidality.
Come back to that 22.
Not what I want to have happen.
Correct, not.
So the balance is very difficult,
Yep.
guys. I get very moody, angry, and irritable, and I don't like it.
Now that's a major component,
I
but
don't like it.
as I mentioned at the beginning, catch-22, you do one thing and affects another, and one thing over here has to be done
Because
for another.
my body.
Well, here's the other thing.
Yeah.
If we have the therapeutic level of that medication, it then creates more dystonia. So suddenly, rather than going into tonic-clonic seizures, she's got more dystonic seizures now starting to occur because that's a natural reaction of that medication. Can you win? No, we can't.
We do our best.
We do our best. Now, you were mentioning your neck is sore. CCI, cranial, cervical
CCI.
instability
I
of the
need to
neck.
have an operation.
You've got nerve impingements. You've got scoliosis, which again, because it's
well, the
centerline.
scoliosis is worse. Like
Absolutely.
I didn't know it could get worse, guys, but it can.
It can.
Apparently.
And there's like three major bulging parts of your disc. No wonder she's in pain all the time. But look, on top of that, having EDS, ehlers-danlos hypermobility, every morning you wake up in pain levels that start at 7 out of 10 and then quickly go out of 10 out of 10 each and every day.
It takes me about an hour in the morning to sort of shake off all of the pain and
gotcha.
get the right pain meds in.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the coffee is so good.
Oh no. Now remember that catch-22? Coffee is so good, and absolutely, I'd say, look, be a
that's
wonderful
right.
thing.
He says it's bad.
But then, if you have more, you get more dystonia because dystonia is affected by caffeine
And
intake.
guess what? I had those 3 coffees
Can't
and still
win.
fell asleep.
Yeah, I know, right? And I can't get her to sleep during the rest of the time because insomnia. She's had all the sleep studies. I can throw medications at her that will put me out for 2 or 3 days straight.
ADHD.
It is. Now we've done a range of different scans, MRI of your brain.
But I
We've
have
got
a very, very high level of melatonin, guys. If you're autistic, don't take the regular dose and think, oh, it didn't work. You have to take. We have a lacking of melatonin. Autistics do. It's in studies. You need to take lots of it.
Yeah.
Like a really high dose. Just keep upping it with your doctors working with you.
Yeah.
Keep upping it until it works.
Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer. We're not medical
We're not medical
professionals.
professionals.
So remember to always see your primary
But
care
I'm just
physician or
saying,
specialist for
out of
information.
any medication to get you to sleep, because there's a lot of medications that are either addictive and dangerous for that reason. Then there's ones that put on massive amounts of weight, which is just unnecessary, and then you get diabetes. Who wants that?
Or cardiovascular disease.
And then, exactly, and then if you have the melatonin, I'm telling you, if you have the right dose, you get quality, good
long-term
sleep.
sleep, deep sleep or deep
Yeah.
REM sleep. Now, Dawn's done massive sleep studies.
Yes.
Has always
I've
struggled with it
done
because she doesn't
all
sleep
the
in the
major
sleep studies.
ones.
Go figure. That's the thing. With the medication that you're on, it would put me to sleep, as your doctor said, and three other men and a horse because it's how strong it is. But other times, I'll give it to her and she's still walking and talking. It's like, this girl doesn't shut up. She will talk underwater.
That's what my family would say,
Yeah, funny about that.
So talk underwater.
Sleep is definitely part of it. And of course, sleep is the major trigger then into seizures. Come back to that catch-22.
Yes.
We need to get sleep to not get seizures.
You've got to eat regularly, be hydrated,
Yeah.
sleep well to avoid seizures and lower your stress.
Bingo.
But I'm under chronic stress at the moment because of reasons that I wish I could tell more.
We'll go into those later
we'll go
on.
into
So
it
make sure you
later.
subscribe to find out. 'Cause there's some big
Subscribe and
stuff
keep
coming.
watching my story because there's a lot coming.
Absolutely.
But basically, it's just chronic stress as well is not good.
Mm.
So you've always got to work on. Now look, I do very well with that. I go to my special interests.
Absolutely.
I dive in, and that's a good.
You've got
stress
your
relief.
toolkit as well,
Yeah.
and particularly when it comes to things like fidgets and other sort of stuff to distract you.
Oh yeah, I've got good ones.
You've got a great process to stop autistic
I got
meltdowns
good
occurring.
ones.
You've got fantastic ones. I
Yeah,
get that.
autistic meltdowns. Well, basically,
Which is also a neurological condition, by the way.
Taylor Swift.
Mhm.
I put on my ears.
Yeah.
And I get on my swing. I'm about to get my swing installed.
Inside
So
the house,
the builder's
all
trying
year
to work
round,
out how.
an aerial swing point.
Yeah, so he's trying to work out
Mm.
how. And once they do, it's coming and being installed.
Yeah.
And then that is my good, what I call decompression, self-regulation,
Yep.
everything.
You've got a
for me.
fantastic toolbox.
Because normally I would just be like in my bathroom in a dark area listening to Taylor Swift. Sometimes I'll walk around and just let my body move the way it wants to move. I highly recommend that. So anyone that doesn't know, because maybe you were late diagnosed like me, you don't know how to handle a meltdown. It is a lot of energy that's in you that you can't get rid of by just sitting still. So you need to get up. So I would recommend, look, if music irritates you, don't do it. But for me, the same song on over and over again, and moving around and just kind of shaking because the adrenaline's pumping and you're frustrated and your senses are overloaded, so you've got to get control of that. So turn all the lights off, or
to regulate,
make sure you're comfortable, so you make sure that whether you're hot or cold. So self-regulation.
Interesting you said hot and cold. Dian does have a thermodysregulation condition. It makes it very difficult to try and get that right sort of balance.
It is tough.
Fluids you mentioned are super duper important.
It was bad enough perimenopause, but I'm post-menopause.
You're post all that sort of stuff, thank God for that, because hormones affect autistic people dramatically.
ADHD as well.
Absolutely, so keep an eye on that. Your fluid levels, we take a lot of electrolytes into you because your body's a chemist, you said, and that affects things like your seizures as well, particularly with 22q, because it affects potassium, magnesium, your calcium levels inside of your body. That's a big deal. GI tract is something which you have been dealing with for decades.
Top and bottom.
Top and bottom. You're about to go for an endoscopy, colonoscopy.
Top and bottom.
Don't know about it, but I know you poor thing. But with dysmotility, gastroparesis, nothing moves anymore. It's like concrete. You've got to throw medications, industrial strength medications to get the damn stuff out. And that affects it. Yeah. But we're lucky because you were tubed at one stage with this condition because her weight was so definitely low. She was skeletal.
Unfortunately, I had foreign body syndrome.
Yeah, and this is another allergic anaphylaxis response to something going into your body that became another emergency. Catch-22 again. You do one thing, it has an effect onto another. See where Catch-22 comes now?
And as soon as they pulled it out, and trust me guys, because it was right down here and they had to pull it all the way. They don't knock you out for it or anything, they just pull. Horrible. You know when you sniff water?
Yes. Terrible sensation.
It was that pain intensely for a long time.
It's a damn long
tube. The goop that comes out with it is disgusting.
It's like Ghostbusters.
It burns. It's acid from your stomach. And basically it burns you. But immediately I was like, I was awake immediately.
There's actually a lot of surgical complications for patients with 22q as well. Anaesthetists have to be incredibly careful with it in the recovery. There's the immune issues with obviously recovery if you have particular surgery. There's heart-related, respiratory-related, abnormal reactions to things. You had a procedure where the anaesthetist medication didn't work. You were listening, hearing everything. You were eyes closed, but you're hearing and knowing everything that was going on around you.
And I was wiggling around. And I had one person have one leg, one person had another leg, one person had one arm, one person had another arm. And I'm squirming around and I'm thinking, I couldn't speak. I couldn't open my eyes, and I'm thinking, why are they not realising that I can feel this?
Funny about that. Now we've had a lot of tests for Dyan over the years, and it's very important. If you don't test, you don't find. That's my motto. I'm going to get the T-shirt one of these days because that's the biggest thing as a carer and an advocate for Dyan.
Exactly.
Every time I ask for a test, particularly with the research of 22q, no more tests to ask for.
Smoke, there's fire.
You find it. So from the brain, we've had MRIs. It's found speckling on the white hyperintensities. We've had obviously CTs, contrast CTs.
Well, it shows the migraines, the seizures,
calcification of the basal ganglia and of the pineal gland, which affects your melatonin. You've had ultrasounds, you've had x-rays, you've had scans of your entire body. You know, organs that suddenly move and disappear. It's like, it freaks out some of the radiologists.
I have PCOS, which is
polycystic ovarian syndrome,
which should be gone in menopause because it's post-menopause, but it's not.
Nope.
I've still got massive amounts of cysts. And probably even in my bowel, I've probably got the same thing, polyps.
Commonly.
I've got polyps and cysts in my, girly bits. So I can get a lot of intense pain. But one day a lady was doing a internal scope with the ultrasound and she's like, where's your ovary? I said, don't worry. It does that.
It's okay. Nothing to worry about here.
And she was like, no. You're, because I had pelvic inflammatory disease at the time. Like they had neglected me so much. By the time they got to me, and I had a complex cyst and everything, I was in a lot of pain. And anyway, she's like, no, I've got to find it because we've got to get you sorted out, And I'm like, and she's looking, she's going around the back and everything, and I'm like, just forget it.
It's got to be there.
And then she goes, oh, I found it.
crazy. But seriously, with this hernias, Diane's got a lot of hernias at the moment that she's dealing with. Organs, as in prolapses, pelvic organ prolapse are very, very common.
Happens off and on with my
Sadly, rectocele, enteroceles as well. Okay, these things have got to be a lot of female problems that come with this condition as well.
Yeah.
And there's not enough awareness in general population to this system.
Women are never taken into account.
They're not, and I'm seeing a lot of misogyny in the medical system towards it.
Come on, women doctors, get out there.
We need to educate
and defend us.
And that's what our channel is about.
Don't join the boys club.
No. So our channel is trying to bring information about 22q through Dyan's experience. Now, again, she's just one person with 22q.
I want to show my 22q
your
experience.
travel, late diagnosis, what's happened beforehand. I want to go back a few steps. Before we did the genetic tests with the hospital, we used 23andMe, a genetic service online, spit test and send it off to America, and it comes back
for ancestry.
To get the data from that.
Use the data.
And you take your genetic data, and we've uploaded it to LiveWello, which is a collaborative approach for scientists worldwide who are researching at the cutting edge of genetics. And that led me to see all of these different conditions. 80% of what Dyan was experiencing all her life was highlighted in these reports.
Everything I was
why the hell
with
didn't we know
was
about
there.
this as a child? Because that would have been helpful.
Yeah.
Well, here it all is. And in fact, we can see the family and what side of the family that these conditions, autism was springing all over the family.
Well, there was Asperger's on one
high
side.
Functioning. We don't use the term Asperger's anymore.
Really big deal autism, like red on the other side, whereas the other side was just Asperger's, which
genes that were missing, genes that were broken, basically. And that led us to say, well, look, take on board, I'm going to measure your skull, and look at her throat.
That genetic counsellor we saw, even though I didn't really like him, but he said, you know, even without 22q, the autism strength here, you would have probably been autistic anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But like I said, I have got a lot of autistic family members.
Absolutely.
I can spot them looking at it now, knowing autism so well.
Now, if you're new to 22q or you have a similar sort of condition, do look online because there are many groups now available. In Australia and New Zealand, we've got the 22q Australasia and New Zealand Foundation. They're an organisation that actually provides support to families. A lot of the time it is for the parents and for children, but there are a lot more late diagnosed, or there are more adults around. They do meet up. I went to a conference a year or so ago, which was great, because we do actually have 2 doctors or specialists in Perth in the Children's Hospital for children. Now what happens is, unfortunately, once you become 18 and you're in the adult sphere, you can't go back. Okay, Medicare doesn't provide access to that. There are no adult specialists in Western Australia, in Perth, for Dyan.
So
she's been to all the
not
hospitals, trust me. She's under 20 other specialists.
So we're not accepting that, as you can imagine.
No, so we're working through that as an issue. So stay tuned to see how that progresses. But it is a challenge for me because I have to gather all of the research that's coming cutting edge online.
And the doctor.
And I have to have conversations. I have to advocate, and I've got to educate. And I've actually got to then find out the tests that need to be done, what are the anomalies, and all of this cutting edge information all adds up to explain what Dyan's going through, what you're experiencing.
Well, it all makes sense, doesn't it? It all added up. It's just, the sad thing is, and anyone out there, if you have a rare syndrome, you know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, we don't get to go to hospital and they go, we know what to do.
Certainly no.
I don't have the stereotypical multiple sclerosis, you know.
Or even just a cancer, for example. That's well known, understood, and treatment pathways that are available.
You know, spina bifida. I don't have something common that they can say, I know how to work.
We know how to work through that.
So when I say it, it's just, they don't get it.
But at the moment, Dyan is under 20 different separate specialists who are not really working together as a comprehensive team or a care team,
which they're meant
communicating, and that's what we're working on also, to bring it together, because it's important. Because if one person makes a change over here, just like Catch-22, it affects something over here.
I know, because they keep asking, like my poor specialist keeps saying, so I have to go to the same hospital. That's what the instructions are. I have to be at the same hospital for this reason. Yeah. But basically,
centralized care.
They don't talk, because every time I go to one, they go, but who's your this? Oh, it's so-and-so. All right, okay, I'll write that down. And then you go to another one, and they go, who's your gastroenterologist? What's their name? it's this so-and-so,
Yeah.
and they're like, this hospital?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, this hospital.
Remember, general doctors, general specialists, this is not trained in their education
No.
process. They have to go outside of that scope and do their own
I need a
research to gather the
specialist
latest
for
research
22q.
online. And a lot of them, if they have heard about it, may have only heard of it as DiGeorge, the older name, the older information.
Yes.
It's even 5 or 10 years out of date, and it's not up to date with the
say
current information that's
And
coming through.
literally, the problem with this, guys, is compared to all of my other years of the neglect would end up with, oh, I'm delayed getting hold of antibiotics and I've got to be sicker a bit longer.
Yeah.
Now, it's life or death.
Absolutely.
If they don't do the right thing for me at the right time now, I could die.
Hence why we obviously do have ambulance cover for emergencies. Hence why I'm observant 24 hours a day. Hence why we've got an emergency kit and first aid kits everywhere, because there's so many different things that can just suddenly happen, from cardiac to respiratory to anaphylaxis to seizures.
Is still a problem.
Even now with her blood disorder, we don't know, from blood clots. Everything have to be monitored carefully. So, this week we see
I'm getting fitted for special stockings.
I know, right?
I'm so not excited.
So she's seeing a vascular specialist the week. You're
I
seeing
don't want stockings.
respiratory specialist the week after
It's
that.
summer.
We're waiting for an
How am I gonna wear my
endocrinologist
stockings
specialist
in summer?
in a few weeks after that.
You guys are going to laugh.
There are so many stupid ologists and specialists
Just
that we have
laugh
to deal
at my
with.
stockings.
We
I'm still
will.
going to wear my shorts and things. I don't care what I look like.
But that's really important
Pippa long
too.
stocking.
Pippi long stockings.
Okay, I'll just put my hair in pigtails.
Now, Dyan has got a fantastic attitude and a very strong
I'm alive.
personality. She is
Right
alive.
now, okay?
And look,
And I was born in the ICU and I will keep
you
surviving.
spent too long in that ICU, didn't you,
Okay.
unfortunately?
So I'm here. Like my grandfather, he was beautiful like that. Every hug I got that had been maybe a gap in time of seeing him. And I remember getting, when we would visit Denmark, when we were living in the city.
Yep.
And because I loved going, that was for me going home, I would run up the stairs and run straight to my grandfather and just jump in his lap, give him a cuddle, and he'd say, oh, my miracle baby's here. And so it was great.
Absolutely, because you were a miracle. You're a miracle to have lived, to be born,
I mean,
to
my
get through those
father
early
took me
stages.
around the whole street and said, look, and I'm assuming that's because I made it.
Yeah. Well, it took you many months to come home
Yes.
from the NICU, and
So he was
get
like,
home,
look, this is my baby,
So
baby.
we're very proud of Dyan's progress. Please
still here.
be gentle and have patience also in the comments. This is a video to try and bring you up to speed, particularly if you're new to the channel, to showcase that she's been through a lot, and this only touches
a lot,
the
yeah.
surface. This is
There's
not everything
so much
in
more
depth.
history that
There
you
are
haven't
so
seen.
many other parts of their body and things that
Yeah.
are affected in her
I've
lifestyle.
only been vlogging since, sort of my 40s, so you don't really know, my 20s, my 30s, or whatever else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you've missed. And then, of course, you don't know me as a mum.
Absolutely. So spend some time to go
Because my kids are
through
grown up.
our playlist and look at some of the previous videos, because there's a lot of great content there that actually helps to fill in the gaps for you. Use that comment section to bring yourself up to scratch and say hello as well. But we are here to educate on the condition, a chromosomal disorder 22q, and the other things that are
so
underneath that,
rare.
whether it's about autism and ADHD, Tourette's and OCD, where it's to do with any of the seizures. We're here to explain what Dyan's experience is. And again, I'm just going to reiterate, we're not medical professionals. The stuff that we do is specific for Dyan's journey, along with the treatments and
Based
the
on
medications.
the people
I
I
do
have
have
working
a
with
sports
me.
science background, hence why
Yeah.
I do a lot of work with pain
My
relief,
neck,
massage,
my back.
relaxation, traction, relocating
And
joints
my
in,
bath is
injuries.
coming soon.
Yay! That is so exciting. We've only been waiting 2.5 years for that. That's
The
part of
taps
the disability
are
access.
coming from over east.
Yeah.
That's the delay. And then
Yeah.
the plumber will be like,
Hmm.
boom.
Yep, Dyan is on the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, so we do talk about that and what disability access is.
And I'm doing very well on the system, guys. Like, I can't complain.
Mhm.
I'm
But it has
very
its own challenges.
appreciative. It has a lot of challenges to get where we've got.
Yep.
You have to be very, you have to gather everything that you have for these people.
Yep.
Okay, you've got to gather every
Paperwork,
medical
heavy.
paperwork you can to throw at them. But my package is wonderful.
Yeah.
I
Well, we've now
feel-
learned who you are and what you're dealing with,
Now, it's been a
and the high
fight
functional support
because
needs that Dyan needs.
when I had to go to AAT,
Administration
I
Appeals
had to
Tribunal.
speak very strongly because they were one person who's, of course, against you because that's what their job is to be, was trying to hide my 22q diagnosis because as soon as it was added to my folder financially,
doorways and
it
pathways
opened up the
of
door. Now,
access.
the thing is, I got offered shit tons more money. But guess what? I didn't spend it.
No.
Because I'm in the housing style that I'm happy
Specialist disability accommodation.
with. So I could have gone
high physical support
and done something else and got a different type of housing and spent more money. But I didn't. But that's not the point. It's
We're very conservative, aren't we?
Yeah, it's the principle. It's the principle of the fact that they were willing to lie by omission by not saying truly to the lawyer, the NDIS lawyer, that I have 22q syndrome. However, my lawyer recently, she went in hard. What did she say?
The Disability Discrimination Act. Yes.
She went in.
As an advocate.
And she told them, she is a goat. I'm telling you, my lawyer is a power chick. Like, she is just
a boss babe.
Absolutely.
Yep, there you
go.
She's a person with disability, so she does understand
She's
the
amazing.
system inherently herself.
She
now, I will talk
speak
about
well.
advocacy through the channel, so you'll sometimes find out, because I do get a lot of time, as I'm also her guardian. This is the thing also with 22q. It is highly recommended for those transitioning from adolescence, childhood into adulthood, that they do have a guardian.
Correct.
Okay, now most people will have parents to provide that role. You're an orphan. You do not have parents to provide that role, so it's on me as a partner. Also, another thing that comes with is a lot of people with 22q may not end up having relationships or partners. Many people with chronic and complex illnesses don't. Exactly.
Only
so that's
1 in 5
20%.
22qers have a partner. But what I want to say on that too is that, what's the first thing you said before you said?
I don't know, I'm so sorry.
Oh no.
I try to prompt, I'm talking about so many things at the moment.
Oh yeah, so basically needing a guardian, there's a lot of people that say to me, oh, but you don't need a guardian. Please understand that you cannot tell by just looking at someone
your parents
whether
don't make
they
assumptions,
are
because it makes an ass out of you and me.
about have the ability to live alone, to be able to function. Don't assume.
Yep.
Because and don't make comment on it too when the person says, I have guardians, I can't be left to my own.
Yeah. So look, Dyan's had multiple testing, particularly with neurocognitive testing.
Well, I live around disability.
Absolutely.
And it's common, guys.
And you're a protected
and
species.
It's actually there for my benefit.
Yeah.
It's there to protect me.
Yeah.
Even the providers that run this place look after me.
Correct.
Okay?
Because they understand
They care about my welfare. They care about how I'm feeling.
Because Dyan's at risk, vulnerable at the end of the day, from manipulation, from fraud, and the misuse by other people who are not appropriate.
I cannot be.
That's what a guardian does. It helps, and from a medical perspective, I'm there to make medical decisions for Dyan, also to engage at highly technical levels, because a lot of doctors don't dumb stuff down. That frustrates the shit out of me, because they need to slow things down. They also need to provide more time for people with autism to be able to attend the appointments.
See, I can't comprehend it, and they don't believe me. And the reason is I have been raised, like I said, with privilege. I have been instructed and
how to act and
how to behave. My sophisticated speech is due to that. Okay, it is not due to what is really going on in here. My neuropsychologist said, I don't even want you taking your medications. No more. He's going to do it, or a carer's going to do it. You're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, because you make mistakes.
I cannot do these things.
Now, financially, I have to obviously monitor and supervise Dyan and assist her through processes.
I have made a mistake recently.
Yeah.
I made a mistake recently.
Paying the wrong person the wrong amount.
I paid my provider here the electricity bill, and I was like, oh no. Yeah. So I had to get Matt to email them to send the money back, refund, so that I can pay the actual electricity company.
But these are the sort of things, it's easy to make mistakes. And now the neuropsychologist has tested Dyan for memory, retention, withdrawal, executive functioning, all these key major domains. Dyan is deficit in, and that makes it a challenge
because
for you.
My 22q is degenerative.
Yeah. And obviously, the more and more seizures, it's doing damage to the brain.
We're seeing the deterioration. If I've had one bad seizure, if I've had a few bad seizures, or just a few seizures, don't I have weird neurological things go on. Yeah. And you'll probably see it in videos. Yeah. You'll probably see the ups and downs and And
that's why we do the videos. Yeah. So you can actually see, and the clinical team.
I do them no matter what I'm feeling.
From everything from dysphagia to the dystonia to the different types of seizures, the breathing, the stats. All this data is so important for us to monitor and maintain your health to try and get the appropriate management and the support for Dyan with her particular condition.
But the sad thing is, I really want to see the future way being more education on rare syndromes, all of them, 22q and all of them, because they really do cause more harm than someone that's suffering cancer. They cause more harm than, you know, chronic illness. They do. There is so much to it that, you know, most genetic syndromes, we don't live long. We don't live long.
Leading
That's
professionals
a big deal.
worldwide in this particular field are stating very clearly that they've made mistakes in the past, that they don't have the data, that there's too much data that's missing, there's no longitudinal studies. They now need to focus and get more genetic information, bring this information together to help diagnosis and prognosis and management support.
If you're in Australia, there's GETA, which is the genetic seizures studies. Now, they are working really hard and really doing great.
You're also under Murdoch University for rare conditions.
Put yourself out there, guys. If you've got something, give your stuff, like all of your stuff to them, because we want to make it better. Because think about it. If you've got something genetic, so do your offspring, etc.
Your data is also over in the UK with a professor for Fast disease, which is that bilateral calcification of the basal ganglia. So Dyan's involved in a lot of clinical studies and information and research that's ongoing.
Because I just think that
it's giving back to the community and helping shape the future to help put the puzzle pieces together.
For the future.
Join the dots. You're fatiguing, you're flaking, you're very tired, and that's okay. You've done incredibly well. I'm really proud of you. You've done well. But I've got to be observant of that, and I know you like doing these things, but I'm always
I love chatting to you guys. Absolutely love it.
I hope you've enjoyed today's chat. Give Dyan a big thumbs up, and I hope you've enjoyed the information. That's, like I said, only touching the surface. It's not everything. There's a lot more to come, but you'll find that out by subscribing to the channel, and obviously being able to follow us along as we go through this exercise. Love to hear your comments below. Comments, ideas, suggestions, questions, whatever they happen to be. You can also email us at autisticcaring@gmail.com. That's our email account that goes along with the channel. Don't forget to share. By sharing our channel, we appreciate that. Giving us a like and then commenting and engaging helps the growth of the channel.
What is 22q? We want them to know.
And just that support in general of rare conditions, where Dyan's got multiple rare conditions all rolled into one. She's a brave warrior and she's doing her very best. Thank you for participating today, and we'll see you in another episode real soon. Bye for now.